Hi everyone, this is Dr. Richard Schulman. I grew up in the 1960s, and when I was very young, it was my impression that my parents expected the government and the media to tell the truth. I remember President Kennedy coming on TV during the Cuban Missile Crisis and basically telling us we were about 15 minutes from blowing up the world. I remember my parents being shaken to their core by what was said, and somehow we made it through the Cuban Missile Crisis. Of course, President Kennedy was murdered, and soon thereafter we were embroiled in a war in Vietnam. Now, the Kennedy assassination brought us the Warren Commission report, and people doubted this report, but not right away. Because if you doubted it right away, you were considered a traitor or a tinfoil hat guy. Never mind that the president and then his suspected assassin were both shot within a few days of each other, and it was a lone nut is killing the leader of the free world, and then a lone nut is killing the most important prisoner in the entire country. So, if you did have suspicions, you mostly shut up. Soon thereafter, the Gulf of Tonkin incident occurred. Now, for me, it's interesting to note that the architect of that false flag, it never happened, was a naval admiral named George Morrison, the father of the Doors' Jim Morrison, which I find absolutely amazing, but it is true. Gulf of Tonkin didn't happen. We made it up. And we went to war. 55,000 American troops dead. And countless others dead through alcohol and drug abuse, suicide, car accidents. The actual figures will never be known, but it's certainly anywhere from 250,000 to 500,000 more premature deaths for U.S. servicemen. Consequences of Vietnam War, and the country was, of course, divided. And then we went through the assassination of the president's brother, Robert Kennedy, who was running for president, and Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. And there were suspicions, came out later. The CIA's fingerprints were all over the King shooting, and there's lots of things that didn't add up about the Robert Kennedy shooting either. Daniel Ellsberg, psychiatrist, had his office broken into to get records on him after Ellsberg had released the Pentagon Papers showing all the lies of the Vietnam War. Kent State shootings. And this went on and on and on. We had Iran-Contra, we had weapons of mass destruction, and who knows what really happened at 9/11. So when I was a young person, it kind of occurred to me as I was being radicalized by the Vietnam War and the war protests not to trust three-letter agencies from the U.S. government. We couldn't trust them. We didn't trust big manufacturers, military industrial complex. We were warned by President Eisenhower, beware the military industrial complex. During Vietnam, the media was somewhat independent. They were not, as they are now, embedded with the troops. They went in and did, at risk to themselves, more or less what they wanted. So, as Johnson said, if I lose Cronkite, I lose America. And he did. Of course, he may have lost America, but Nixon came in and we had 4 more years of this war. It was terrible. But at that point, we may not have believed the government, but we still kind of believed the media. As things went on, the media became more co-opted. The military got slicker. During a Desert Storm, the reporters were embedded with the troops. So they bonded with the troops. You really think they were going to blow the whistle on people who were probably saving their lives and had acts of heroism? No, they were foxhole buddies. And then as things unfolded, 6 corporations now own 90% of the media. So if you look at the news, you'll see who you can't criticize. If you look at the news, most of the commercials are big pharma. So now we're reaching a point where the 3 letters that we don't trust, FBI, CIA, have turned into CBS, NBC, ABC, and maybe even CDC or WHO. There are financial reasons why we don't get all the information. So now we get to the final act of this, where we are today is COVID-19. Google, big tech, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter have started censoring things. They don't meet community standards. So what if the community standards suck? The real issue is that Google is now part of healthcare. Amazon is part of healthcare. Facebook is part of healthcare. Google partnered with Glaxo, $791 million of investment. You really think they're going to allow something to come out that's going to cost Glaxo? So, reports on chloroquine to treat COVID-19 were censored in the beginning. Why? Well, chloroquine has been used for 70-something years and only costs 75 cents a pill, and if it works, that'll knock out some of the big money that they would get from making a vaccine or getting some exotic drug, I can't remember, Remdesivir, something like that, $1,000 a pill. And they certainly don't want any report of vitamin C helping treatment of COVID-19. So there's a financial reason for big tech to suppress certain information. And they are so big that the idea that they get a pass because it's their business doesn't pass the sniff test anymore. You know, back in the 20s, John D. Rockefeller, who owned Standard Oil, his wealth was, I read this, it was amazing, 2% of the gross national product was owned by John Rockefeller. That was for the whole country. And this brought up antitrust laws. This has to happen again. These tech companies are so powerful. They control the information, but through their ability to bring information, they are incredibly powerful financially, supporting political candidates and issues that they want and blocking out others. I don't think it's an accident that Governor Cuomo of New York is bringing in Eric Schmidt, a billionaire, Mike Bloomfield, a billionaire, and Bill Gates, a billionaire, to help him with education reform, and that these guys are intimately involved with healthcare. They don't know anything about either, by the way. That's not my point. My point is that we have to go a little deeper. We've got to dig deeper. Because the 3 letters, FBI, CIA, CDC, ABC, CBS, NBC, CNN, FOX, they all have an agenda, and it isn't us. George Carlin once said, they all belong to it's a big club, and we're not members of that club. And it's sad how right George Carlin was. So what I'm going to ask that you do is to do your homework. Go beyond the surface sideshow. Look for where the money goes. And we're going to have to demand transparency because our freedoms are eroding due to our fears. There is no such thing as a new normal. That's an oxymoron. We have to create a space right now where things are better than they ever were. Not that we live in fear. Ignore the surface sideshow. Go deeper. This is a crisis, and in Chinese, a crisis has two pictograms, danger and opportunity. If we can get beyond our fear and look beyond that surface sideshow, this is an opportunity for tremendous growth and change. But we cannot just accept what they tell us. Please do your own homework. Do the research. Don't just take the narrative without questioning. Let's hold all these people accountable. Okay, so it's a big challenge, and I'm challenging all of you, so I send you strength for the challenge, love, because that's really the only thing there is, and I say to you, peace out.